Hello, my dear students of Benguet State University. Welcome to our online class. I am your teacher, Jan Lasea.
Ladies and gentlemen, a blessed day to everyone. This is my lecture on our laboratory subject of IT 125, Systems Integration in Architecture 1. Today, let us learn asynchronous JavaScript and XML, or Ajax. JavaScript is a high-level dynamic, untyped, and interpreted programming language, often used in web development as a client-side. JavaScript and Java are different to each other. Here is an example of a JavaScript. The JavaScript codes are placed in the tag script language equals JavaScript, located inside the HTML file. To declare a variable in JavaScript, you start with the keyword var. XML stands for Extensible Markup Language. It is a markup language that defines a set of rules for encoding documents in a format that is both human-readable and machine-readable. Here is an example of XML package. It begins with a header tag less than $XML version 1.0 encoding UTF-8 standalone yes, followed by the user-defined XML package made by the web developer. This XML package data contains an information of a person ready to send to the client by the web server. Ajax stands for Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. It is a set of web development techniques using many web technologies on the client side to create asynchronous web applications. With Ajax, web applications can send data to and retrieve from a server asynchronously in the background without interfering with the display and behavior of the existing page. By decoupling the data interchange layer from the presentation layer, Ajax allows for web pages and by the extension web applications to change content dynamically without the need to reload the entire page. Google Maps and Gmail are some examples of Ajax. The meaning of asynchronous: when the computer executes programs, you can move on to another task before it finishes, and you will not wait the computer to finish before moving to another task. The following codes are taken from the Ajax activity number 1 on the laboratory manual. Here is an example of asynchronous JavaScript. Every time we click the submit button, the $format.submit event handler is triggered to run by the client computer. The client computer sends the data, the two integer numbers entered by the client user using the post method, to the web server asynchronously. When the PHP web server computed the sum and difference, the PHP web server sends back an XML package to the client computer. The posting.done event handler is triggered to run by the client computer, and it receives the XML package. It then finds and filters the XML package and updates and displays the client website the results of the sum and difference on the same web page without reloading the entire web page. Jquery is a JavaScript library designed to simplify HTML document, tree traversal, and manipulation, as well as event handling, cascading style sheet animation, and Ajax. It is free, open source software using the permissive MIT license. As of May 2019, Jquery is used by 73% of the 10 million most popular websites. Web analysis indicates that it is the most widely deployed JavaScript library by a large margin, having 3 to 4 times more usage than any other JavaScript library. Bootstrap is a free and open source cascading style sheet framework directed at responsive, mobile-first front-end web development. It contains cascading style sheet and, optionally, JavaScript-based design templates for typography, forms, buttons, navigation, and other interface components. Let us learn event-driven programming. Event-driven programming is a style of programming used to process events. An event is a condition that arises during the lifetime of a program. An event handler is an active program unit which is invoked in response to the event. An event occurs in response to an action, such as the user clicking the mouse or pressing a key in the application. An event handler is a routine that responds to the event. Examples of event-driven programming: C# Windows Graphical User Interface Programming, Visual Basic Windows Graphical User Interface Programming, Game Programming, C++ Win32 Application Program Interface Programming, Java Windows Graphical User Interface Programming, Android Java Apps Programming, Web Development, and Python Windows Graphical User Interface Programming, to name a few. Let us study the entire codes of the Ajax activity number 1. First, we proceed at the index.html as represented by the client computer, where it displays the graphical user interface for the client user to interact to the web page. The form tag contains Bootstrap commands for typography, input validation, and buttons. The highlighted red marks are Bootstrap commands. The ID name format is used in the asynchronous JavaScript to bind a submit event handler. The action is compute.php and the method is pause. The ID names text num1 and text num2 are used in the asynchronous JavaScript to clear their contents. The names text num1 and text num2 are passed to the PHP web server when the user clicks the submit button. The Bootstrap keyword required command indicates that mandatory that both the input text boxes must have values before it sends to the web page PHP web server. The Bootstrap placeholder keyword or command will place a faded text inside the two text boxes. These are the continued codes inside the form tag. The ID name LBL_sum is used in the asynchronous JavaScript to display the result of the sum, while the ID name LBL_difference is used in the asynchronous JavaScript to display the result of the difference. These are the continued codes inside the form tag. The ID name btn_clear is used in the asynchronous JavaScript to bind a button click event handler. Likewise, the ID name btn_submit button is used in the asynchronous JavaScript to bind a button click event handler. Let us proceed to the JavaScript codes inside the index.html represented by the client computer. Assume the client user entered 5 and 3 decimal numbers and then click the submit button. The number sign format.submit event handler is triggered to run by the client computer every time the user clicks the submit button. The Jquery command $post, which is asynchronous JavaScript, will send the two data 5 and 3 via post to the PHP web server, and also the type of package that the PHP web server will send back to the client computer is XML package. The btn clear click event handler is triggered to run by the client computer every time the user clicks the clear button. It clears the values of the two text boxes and resets the values of the two labels. Let us proceed to the server computer represented by compute.php file. After the user entered the decimal numbers 5 and 3 and then click the submit button, the client computer submitted the data to the web server via post method. The server computer receives the data represented by textnum1 and textnum2. The server computer runs the compute.php file. The variable $num1 receives the value 5. The variable $num2 receives the value 3. The server computer computes the sum and difference. The variable $xml data contains the XML package. The following codes will set up the XML package containing the results of the computed sum and difference. The 4 echo commands will send the XML package to the client computer. Here is the example XML package. As you can see, it has a header followed by document tag, followed by output tag containing the sum of 8 and the difference of 3. And the PHP web server will send this XML package to the client computer. Let us go back to the client computer represented by index.html file. When the PHP web server sends the XML package to the client computer, inside the format submit event handler, the posting.done event handler is triggered to run by the client computer. The received XML package will be stored in the formal parameter variable XML. The body of the event handler finds and filters the output tag from the XML package. Next, it accesses the value of the sum and difference from the XML package. Finally, it updates the display of the two labels, namely LBL sum and LBL difference. Thus, it displays the outputs. The sum is 8 and the difference is 2. All in the same client web page. Here is a web page that does not contain Ajax. I type the first integer number 5 I type the second integer number or decimal number 3 and then click compute. What happens next is that it will redirect to another page where it will display the computed sum is 8 and then the difference is 2. If we want to go back to the main page, we need to click the try again hyperlink. By clicking the try again hyperlink, it will reload the entire web page of this example web page. Next, let us try another web page that it does have a Ajax. I type the first decimal or integer number 5. I type the second integer or decimal number 3 and then click submit button, and then it will display the result within the same page without redirecting to another page. The sum is 8 and the difference is 2. If I click the clear button, it will empty the 2 text boxes and it will reset the 2 labels. If I click the submit button without typing any values for the first and second decimal numbers, it will pop out a message, please fill out this field. If I type 5 again and then I click submit, it will not submit because the second text box does not have any value. And if I will click now submit, and then therefore the 2 numbers are submitted to the PHP web server, calculates the sum and difference, and return a XML package back to the client, and then filter and find and display the result. The sum is 8 and the difference is 2. A web page that does not have Ajax reloads the entire web page every time the user clicks the submit button, and it is slow to update the web page if it has plenty of images and information that it will reload. A web page that does have Ajax does not reload the entire web page, only update some part of the web page every time the user clicks the submit button. And it is fast to update the web page because it does not reload the entire page. Here is your assignment. On pages 19 to 20 of the laboratory manual, solve the laboratory hands-on exercise number 4. If you are assigned set A, then solve set A. Otherwise, solve set B. I posted your laboratory hands-on exercise number 4 in our Google Classroom. Please answer and accomplish it.
That ends our topic for today. I hope you have learned in my class. Thank you for watching. Carry on until tomorrow. God bless us.